Greetings and welcome to
YAS Podcast, formerly known as
YAS a Stripper Podcast.
This is our podcast, all of ours.
A podcast for all sex workers.
In this podcast, we will discuss the ins and outs, ups and downs of our lives and experiences as sex workers. I am your host, Daisy Ducati.
I am your heauxprahs, Gigi Holiday.
I'm your stripper queen from the north, Onyx.
I'm A.M. Davies, and this is YAS Podcast.
Hi, you're listening to YAS Podcast, aka Yes, a Stripper Podcast. And this is Lisa Michelle. I am your host today. And we have A.M. Davies as our producer. Say hello.
Hello.
Nice mug.
Thank you.
It's really appropriate for our topic of the day.
I almost picked a different mug, and then I was like, wait a second. I have a booby mug. So
a multi-featured booby mug.
Yeah, I can smoke weed out of it, but I thought I'd try to stay sober for this. There's just tea in here. Remember when I told you I was going to get kava tea or drink kava tea, and you're like, oh, you need to drink a lot of it to be tired? That did not happen. I drank one cup with one tea bag.
Really?
And I was exhausted. Yes, I went to sleep in the middle of the day. It was like awesome. 4:30.
Maybe the one you had had like a longer metabolizing time because it's really dry.
Maybe it's just strong because after you told me that, I was like, oh, one of these days I got to try 2 bags at once. And then
no, don't do that.
And then after that, I was like, hell no, I need some weight during the day.
Maybe I'll try it because I've never had dried. I've only had like fresh kava, like the juice. I've never had kava tea. So
yeah, I just got this crap from the grocery store. You know what I'm saying? It's like not fancy, and that shit put me to sleep. So
noted. I will try.
This is strawberry tea, not kava. I'm not messing with that during the day. Yeah. Anyway.
Okay.
So excited for today for your episode.
Yes. So am I. I'm really excited. And today's episode is about elective procedures. Specifically, we're talking about breast augmentation. And our guest today is Karma. And you can come on and say hello.
Hi.
Hello. It's nice to meet you.
Lovely to meet you.
Yeah, and your little dog. Oh, you didn't like that. This is. Do you want to tell everyone your dog's name?
This is Klaus. He is looking out the window right now. We're facing a window, and he's on guard. He's protecting me.
He's a very handsome guard dog. Okay, before we get started, do you want to share with everyone your pronouns?
Yes, my pronouns are they, them. I'm non-binary.
Mm-hmm.
And my name is Karma Chase.
And you identify as a sex worker?
I do.
Yep. So I tend to use the terms when we're talking about stripping. I'll use stripper, entertainer, performer, dancer. Are all of those okay with you?
I love all of those.
Yeah, me too. Cool. Okay, so we're going to talk about your elective procedure today. So let's just get into it. So I have a couple questions that I'm going to look off to for reference, but feel free, if you want to riff off of, or if you have something specific, just go into it.
Okay.
So you've been a dancer for how long?
Since I was 18, and I'm 32, so 14 years, or am I doing math correctly?
Something like that. But you're a veteran, so you've definitely crossed the 10-year mark. And it goes by so fast, right?
It really does. I mean, I still feel going into work that I have no idea what I'm doing sometimes. And then other times I'm like a pro and I feel like I'm a veteran and everything is perfect and going my way.
Mm-hmm. It's never the same day twice, that's for sure.
That is for sure.
So at I guess, did you decide to get your breast augmentation before you started dancing, or was this like during your time in the club?
Oh no, I had been dancing for a while. I got them done in 2018, on October 31st, Halloween, so that I could call them my boobies. And I tell that joke a lot. It doesn't always land, and sometimes people really like it.
I love that. I actually, so I have a regular annual practice to get my pap smear on Halloween because
I love that.
no one's ever there at the clinic on Halloween, and everyone's in costume, so it's like kind of fun, and you get candy when it's over. So,
Oh, life hack.
Right? Yeah.
I'm gonna have to do that.
And then you never forget either. It's Halloween.
Yeah.
Plus, it's just fun to go in a costume. I don't know what I'm going to be this year, but. Okay, so let's talk about your procedure specifically and how you started. Well, how you came to decide that you were going to do it. Was it like a personal choice, or was it something like this is a work expense, a work decision? Like I need to do this to make more money.
It was 100% a work decision.
Mm-hmm.
I had lost and gained weight for most of my life, and I was always like a C cup, but at a certain point, it just they became like a rather flat, kind of deflated C cup, and I was really into fitness, and I was like looking the best I'd ever looked for work, and I was feeling super confident except for that particular part, and I just knew that it was just going to keep happening. So I wanted to fill them out, and I was getting into the point of dancing where I was like, I want to take this seriously. I've resigned to be a career stripper, and uh, I just thought like this is going to get me hired at like higher end clubs,
Mm-hmm.
and which is going to increase, my quality of my career and obviously my income.
Mm-hmm. Did you find that to actually be the case that you actually started profiting more?
Oh,
I
yes.
think most
Yeah.
dancers would say that.
I had a lot of professional success, and that was great. But then it started to really separate from my personal life because
Mm-hmm.
uh, they made me very like gender dysphoric. I didn't realize that I was actually non-binary, and like a huge feminization of my body would be so traumatic for me.
That's really interesting. Do you feel like that awareness started because of the implants, or was it kind of like a culmination of a lot of different things?
So I was learning a lot more about the gender binary and the spectrum. The initial response to my breasts was I was just making a lot more money. I was a lot more confident. They were looking, perfect and, perfectly sat because they were brand new. And it took me a while to realize that outside of the club, when I was trying to dress the way that I normally dress, which is usually right in the middle of feminine and masculine, a little bit androgynous, a little bit fruity. um, I was noticing that nothing sat on my body the way that it used to. And that's when I started thinking about like, why am I feeling so uncomfortable? Why do I want to cry every time I look in the mirror? Why do I feel incredibly self-conscious at the way I'm being perceived outside of work? And to be clear,
Mm-hmm.
like at work, like I look great in like a microkini or like dancewear or lingerie. Like I still feel incredibly confident at the club. But my breasts are very large, which was not what I expected.
Oh.
Uh, yeah, I feel like I I was supposed to get like a large augmentation, but it was still supposed to be proportionate to my very small frame. I'm 5 feet tall, 100 pounds,
Oh, wow.
and
I
I'm
thought you
like
were
a
taller.
triple D. I was supposed
Really?
to be like a D cup, and I am like a 30 triple D right now. And
So
it looks ridiculous when I'm
how
not
did that?
at the club.
I'm imagining like okay, because this sometimes happens with surgeons. They take their own interpretation of what you want. But that's a
Hmm.
pretty big discrepancy. I've had three augmentations now, and every
Oh,
time they said that there's kind of a range of 20 to 40 cc's where there might be like maybe it'll be a little bit less than what we talked about, a little bit more, just because implants, silicone implants come, pre-made. So how did this conversation with your surgeon go about where like F turned into triple or D turned into triple D?
So originally we had decided on a 450 cc implant. We were going to do like a high profile, which is like from the side. It's very noticeable from the side.
Mm-hmm.
We were going to do a high profile 450 cc. It was supposed to put me at a D cup from like, a not very full C. It was not supposed to be huge, but it was supposed to be like, significant enough. And that's what we agreed upon at the consultation all the way up until like my pre-surgery appointment and all the way up until the morning of. And my surgeon specifically, because I have some like medical trauma and stuff, he gave me Valium for the night before and the morning of, and then he gave me more Valium in my IV the morning of when I was about to be rolled in because I was super, super, super nervous. And I was actually in the stripper groups like on Facebook, the ones that I'm talking about.
Yes.
And I was talking about how, it's the morning of, I'm really nervous, give me some words of encouragement. And everyone was like, go bigger than you think you want. Like my biggest regret is not going bigger, not going bigger, not going bigger, not realizing that these people are all cisgender and not realizing that I am not. So I was a little nervous. And after he sedated me, like on the Valium, I remember being rolled in, like they were rolling me into the operating room. And I was like, hey, is there any way we could go like a half a cup size bigger? And I do specifically remember, the only thing I remember is that he like winked at me and he was like, I got you covered. And so we were supposed to do a 450 cc implant. I woke up and he told me they did a 615.
Whoa.
I know is like knowing what I know now, it's huge. It's a huge implant. So I just wanted to go like a little bit bigger, and I guess that's what they had in stock, and I was not totally in my right mind. And he was definitely a salesman over an artist, like craftsman. He really convinced me that everything was gonna like go well. I also had like liposuction on my just midsection during the same procedure, and he kind of messed that up a little bit too. Like it's not that bad now, but I can definitely feel where he could have done better, especially all the research I've done in the last 6 years since I've had it done.
Okay. So my first thought is usually when you sign off on your deposit for your surgery, there's some paperwork you have to sign. And now I want to go find my paperwork now. I'm wondering if the CC size is agreed upon, but probably not, because sometimes they do have to, like I said before, adjust a little bit. But that's quite a huge difference and to be doing that while you're sedated.
I actually talked to him about that, and I do have my paperwork. I got a copy of the paperwork, and it does say 450 cc's, and he should have waited. He should have paused and said, are you sure? I think we should stick to the original plan, or we should wait until we have a more appropriate implant size, or we should just give you like a half an hour to be less sedated. Because I talked to him afterwards and I was like, these are really big. And I went over the muscle, another thing that I would not recommend. Especially with huge implants. It stretches the scar capsule out, and gravity is a huge factor. Like they're only 6 years old and I'm already wanting to like get a lift and a replacement because they're causing me, some problems. They're so heavy and they're really coming down. But I talked to him and he was just like, well, he really gave me kind of a tough shit answer, which was just, this is what you agreed to. My nurses thought it was the right call at the same time. Like they heard you say it, and my mom was the one who was in the room with me. She took me and she picked me up, and she remembers me asking or talking about it, and she remembers me being very out of it, but she remembers that, I felt pretty strongly about it. So I don't really know. I didn't love that he didn't give me very much information about size. And I mean, I don't think a 615cc is healthy or appropriate for someone with my frame. Like my neck, my shoulders, my back, they are killing me. Like no matter what I
Wow.
do with yoga, posture training, all the strength training I do, all the pole I do, it's
Mhm.
not an appropriate size for someone my height at all.
Yeah. How long have you had? Has it been almost pretty much since the surgery immediately is when you started feeling the back pain and all that?
I would say the pain, I'm chronically ill. I have hypermobility and fibromyalgia. So I've always had like back pain, but I've never had upper back pain. I've never had like really serious upper back, neck, and shoulder
All the
tension
places
the
you
way
would
that I
have it.
do.
Yeah.
I'm
Hmm.
sorry, what?
All the places you would have it if you had a lot of weight in the front of your body. That makes sense.
Yeah, I would say it was about a
Yeah.
year, maybe 2 years. I started feeling the
Mm-hmm.
gender dysphoria after about a year, and I would say that the really noticeable kind of consistent issues that I've had started about 2.5 years
Mm-hmm.
after. I mean, I was in pretty good shape and I was working a lot and, training your posture when you're at work, you're kind of thinking about it, or at least I am all the time. Like
Of
throughout my
course.
whole shift,
Yeah.
I'm conscious of my posture. I'm really, chin up, chest out, shoulders back, confidence,
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm working super often and my posture wasn't really terrible. And then I started to work a little bit less often. And that's when I started noticing it was just pulling me forward. And it's not been something I've been able to correct.
Mm. I'm wondering, at this point, so you said it's been 6 years that you've been working and living with Triple D. Um, at this point, would you want to go back for a revision? And do you think it would be worth it?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I kind of desperately want a revision. I just want something. I want to go to like what I was originally planning. I would
Mm-hmm.
like to get these explanted and do a lift because it's real. I've lost some weight and I really don't have very much fat and it's really putting a lot of stress on my skin, but I would love to get a lift, go under the muscle and get smaller implants until I leave the industry permanently, which might be a while. So,
Yeah.
and then I would probably get them out like
Mm-hmm.
tiny little mosquito bites and just not worry about it. I'd be so
Yeah.
happy to just be kind of flat chested.
I feel that. So I got my implants because I was so lopsided, and I got them way
Oh,
before I was in the industry. So,
okay.
like, I don't know what it's like to be non-binary or have gender dysphoria, but I know what it feels like to look at my body every day and say, "This is not the body that I'm ever going to feel like the self that I want to be in." Um, it was a huge impact on my life to have it done. Um, and I wouldn't change it. But like what you said, I wish that I would have done a little bit more research and kind of taken my time and talked to other doctors to see how they saw my situation because
Hmm.
the last time I had a revision, that was the case. I talked to a lot of doctors. And it was really interesting to see how so much of their advice or information really conflicted. Um,
Okay.
so for me, it was a process of elimination of finding someone that understood the problems that I was having. So I actually had the opposite problem where mine were under the muscle, but I kept rupturing. And
Oh, you did.
yeah, and so there's when we think about it, like implants have not, implant surgery hasn't been around that long. So there's not a ton of data. It's, 60s, 70s, 80s. There's data, but the average lifespan of an implant patient will have them for 10 to 15 years. So, now they're saying that having them, some doctors, some articles I've read say having them under the muscle makes you a higher risk of rupturing. So
I didn't know that.
Right? I didn't know that either. And every time I would go talk to what I would call a higher level doctor, like one that works for a hospital and has like an actual team, they would tell me that, like, well, with what you're doing with your body and the type of work you do, maybe it isn't a coincidence. So I actually ended up going from under the muscle to over the muscle. And I did have a little bit of size increase to fix the size, or implant increase to fix the size discrepancy. But, I can understand we're going from being so petite to just not having a lot of skin. And a lot of this, for people listening, you have to consider, like, how much natural tissue do you have to support it? Everyone's case is differently. And that's why it's so important to consider talking to the right people, multiple opinions, but also thinking about, well, this is how I am today, but I mean, what might I be like 10 years from now? And I actually had a doctor that did my second revision say, well, it's not like you're ever going to be like a bodybuilder or anything. And of course, 7 years later, I got into bodybuilding and then I started having issues with them. So I think we need to be like a little more gracious with ourselves, because I'm definitely not the same person I was 17 years ago when I first got them. And good thing we can change it.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like lucky enough that I'm able to save for a revision, but I know that like that's not the case for everybody. Like some people will like go overseas to get them done because it's like less expensive, and then when they're not happy with them, they don't really have the same option. It's a lot of money to get like a revision. You just kind of have to wait and save over that 10 to 15 year span. And I mean, I'm definitely getting these like revised before that 10-year mark for sure, because they're too much for my body to handle. But, I think about that all the time. The fact that a lot of people in the industry who are maybe doing it for survival reasons and stuff, they don't have the same options to kind of go back and fix the decisions they maybe made to get out of a tough situation.
I love where you're getting at with this. Let's take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Are you a sex worker looking for a new podcast to listen to? Stripped by Sia is your answer to learning about the lived experiences of those in the adult industry, with a mission to destigmatize, educate, and humanize sex workers. I am your host, Steph Sia, and you can listen to new episodes every single Sunday wherever you get your podcast. Catch you then!
Yes, it's true. We made a stripper store for your slutty lifestyle, so go and shop the core. But wait, there's more. Pole dancers, listen up. You've learned from hosts, support their growth by shopping here with us. Stripper fans, all you daddies, you can shop here too. Wear these threads in solidarity, get stuff for your boo.
It's a stripper store made with strippers in mind. Profit share with all the babes to supplement the grind. It's a stripper store made with strippers in mind. Profit share with all the babes to supplement the grind.
Shop with us at yasstore.shop to purchase items that directly support the podcast, our guests, and 10% of profits to a stripper or sex worker charity. yasstore.shop.
And we're back. So you were just talking about how you've thought ahead because you know for certain that you're going to be a revision. And this is something that I want a lot of other people getting a breast aug to consider, is that they're not going to last forever. I have a friend that's had hers for like 15 or 16 years now, and that is pretty rare. They pretty much decide to self-destruct at 10 years. So you kind of have to be thinking about, it's like buying a car. Your car is a depreciating asset the second you get it off the lot. So your boobs are the same thing. And the moment that you get your first set of implants or the next revision, you have to start saving for the next one. And I didn't do that with my last set because I thought there's no way they're going to rupture again. I have time. And of course, now I had to finance them. And that's a really stressful experience to have, or
Yeah.
go fly to Turkey to have them done. This is like the best piece of wisdom that you can give people listening to this, is to understand that once they're in your body, they're a liability to your health. And you have to plan ahead for, oh my God, I have a rupture, or my saline implant just deflated. And when they deflate, it's like a couple, like 2 days, and it's totally flat. You can't go to work like that if you're dancing or wherever. So it's worth
How does
thinking
that
about
feel?
when it deflates. I don't have saline, I have silicone, but I've read a couple stories about people that have had saline, and when it deflates, your body absorbs it, but then you also have, well, usually one will deflate at a time, so you have one boob. And if your work is based on portraying femininity with these big implants and one of them's flat, it's not probably going to go over very well. So,
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not feminine to be imperfect.
Oh my gosh.
For the patriarchy.
So let me tell you. So when my rupture happened, it happened last June, and I was taking my time finding the right doctor. I set up all these consults, and I really wanted to find the right person this time. So I was working with it, and I did a little test with some of my customers. I would tell them, well, I'm going to be gone in a couple months. I'm going to be gone for like 2 months. So you should get that room with me now.
Love it.
And they're like, well, why are you leaving? I'm like, well, I have to have surgery. Like, I have a ruptured implant. And it was almost like I was like contagious. Like, oh.
Are they afraid to like hurt you, or?
Probably, or what I think it is because I would tell them, oh no, it doesn't hurt at all. It's just, I don't want to live with this thing like this. I think it was, I had taken the veil of the fantasy away. And when men see you as not being perfect and just being the Barbie, and they suddenly become aware of your humanity, and that you're this complex human being that actually has a life outside of the club.
Yeah. Crazy, right?
Isn't it? Isn't that wild? So I love that you brought that up, because, sometimes dancers will, start a conversation with me at work, and I'm getting my boobs done. I'm like, first of all, have you found the right doctor? Have you researched it? Well, I don't know. I'm like, do you know if you're going over another month? Like, I want to like make sure that they know what they're doing to themselves. And most of the time they haven't even thought about all of these things that can happen.
Well, my surgeon definitely never told me that breast implants need to be replaced. I did not know that until like maybe 6 weeks after my surgery. And I had been doing a lot of research, but the thing is that when you're excited and you have the money and you're ready, and your surgeon salesman is telling you everything you want to hear, you're just like, yeah, let's do it. You're kind of overwhelmed. And I had done a lot of research. I had like a lot of people on my list, but during that consultation, everything kind of just froze for me. And I was just ready to get it done. He had like good Google reviews. And obviously his work looked good. And I mean, mine look good. They look great. And I get people asking me all the time at the club, like, oh my God, I'm obsessed with your boobs. Like, where did you get them done? Who's your surgeon? I'm like, I don't recommend him. I don't think that they don't feel good. They don't feel good in my body. I don't have any like positive feedback in my nerves on my breasts anymore. Like, I only get negative feedback, which is really unfortunate, because like I used to get a lot. Yeah. Well, I mean, not necessarily pain, but just unpleasantness, just discomfort, like, during intimacy, people want to reach for them. And I'm just like, I mean, if we're, I'm not performing right now, so I don't really want to feel that discomfort. So don't touch my breast. I don't really have I used to have like a lot of positive feedback. It was one of my favorite like erogenous areas to be touched. And I don't have that anymore. It's just the skin is so stretched and so stressed that the nerves don't really create
that's like a physiological like response, you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just like, yeah, they look good, and yeah, I make a lot more money than I used to, but I would definitely recommend getting your breasts done if you want to, but I would also recommend first thinking about your gender identity. Like, I mean, even when you don't think you have anything, if you know you're a little queer in your heart, even if you're not out, like take a minute, think about it. How is it actually going to make you feel if you're not really able to dress or present in a way that you typically want to, and outside the club, obviously, and think about your physical needs. Like, is getting extra weight there going to create problems for me? Is that something I really want to deal with? I'm going to have to replace them eventually. Is this going to be an ongoing thing? Because once you get an explant and you don't get implants, you have to decide to go like much smaller if you don't want, sagging, extra loose skin, all that. Think about the emotional, financial ramifications of it. And I mean, go for it if it's really something you want to do, but also it's okay to stay in the body that you have, and just understand that you might be a little bit less like widely appealing, is because that's what I've found, like as like an alternative, like racially ambiguous person. I wasn't always everyone's type, and now I find that like with the augmentation and having lost some weight, like I'm a lot more palatable to almost everyone, which just gives me more options. I get to be a little bit more picky instead of the other way around. But at the same time, I don't really feel at home in my body.
Is there anything that you've gained because you've worked with them for several years now that you would miss out on that would be so valuable having had them? That's probably kind of a difficult question. It'd be hard to know what you'd be like,
I mean, while I believe that like anybody can find like self-worth and value without necessarily perpetuating like patriarchal stereotypes and everything, it definitely was something I was like, I paid 12 grand for my surgeries. Obviously, that was the liposuction that I had on my midsection and
that's right.
the breast implants. 12 grand. Do you think I would have like better surgery? But they were $6,000, and then the lipo was $6,000. I said, I paid 12 grand for this body that I have, and I'll be damned if I let somebody stiff me on a tip or somebody try and negotiate me down. And it was easier. It was easier for me to find that thought pattern with what I've invested in myself. So I invested in myself that way. That's when I started really investing in my image and my presentation as a dancer specifically. I started paying a lot more money and getting my hair done professionally and getting extensions, sewn in, and my nails and the gym memberships and the massages and everything. It's so many investments that I made in myself that I'm definitely not like at this point. It's just like, I need to get my investments back. I need to make sure that I am valuing myself because that's what I've put into myself. So the positive about it is that when you make a conscious decision to invest in yourself as a dancer, it's easier for your mind to make that jump to, I've invested in myself, therefore I'm valuable, rather than like finding inherent value. Like it would be ideal and utopian if everybody found inherent value in themselves. But I've kind of worked backwards with that. Like it was good for me to find that place through the surgeries and the investments. And that was something that I was privileged enough to have. And then on that pedestal, I was able to work backwards from that and find inherent value in myself, where I'm wrestling with like, well, I feel weird because of this like gender contradictory surgery I've had.
Yeah.
And now I'm trying to find inherent value in myself. I'm trying to go back to the basics and the center and the truth of myself and find value in that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know that I don't necessarily feel like I feel super confident in the club, but I don't feel confident and worthy and genuine outside the club, like in my personal life. I don't feel that way because I feel like I've betrayed myself because I've had the surgery, and just realizing that like that was not something I was able to predict. And also, you don't have to be androgynous to be non-binary. And also, you know, it doesn't really matter the decisions I've made. I'm still a person who's like worth knowing, and I can still be who I want to be in the now, and I can still present how I want to present in the future if I just focus.
Yeah.
And make that a clear goal.
That is so beautiful and so insightful. Like I'm hearing you talk, and it's almost like you've had this like spiritual experience by stepping outside of the body that is you. You know, you have this like the meat suit on, like the guy in Men in Black. I forgot his name, Earl. Like we're all kind of in this Earl meat suit, and I don't feel like any of us is ever. I'm not the feminine portrayal that I am at work. Like I don't know who that bitch is. Like I feel like I'm some like old grandma that just crochets sweaters and complains about taxes all the time. Like, but we have to sell this, and most of us are not that hyper. Just exploded version of femininity. But you found this way of using it like a tool to then find self-worth. And when you're talking, I'm hearing you say like, you're quantifying it. I paid 12 grand for this tool, and now you will give me the extra tip that I deserve. You will give me what I want. Everyone comes to it in a different way. For me, it was, because I had my implants before I started dancing, so I didn't have like a basis of comparison. But when I got my master's degree and I came back to the club, I came back with a fury because I was like, this brain is really expensive, and I'm not going to walk away without compensating me. So,
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I view sex work just in general as a like spiritual experience, and it's this really unique experience where you get to deconstruct compulsory sexuality from genuine intimacy and what feels good to you and what society wants you to think feels good. And I mean, if you're really thinking about it, and it's an experience that not a lot of women get. And I do feel like I feel blessed to have fallen into the industry the way that I did, and to be able to actually quantify and qualify my experience and use it as a tool to discover like what is authentic and what is real. And that's one of the reasons I find it empowering. And I get that it's not the same experience for everyone. And but for me, being faced with that heteronormative stereotype and that patriarchal standard every single time I go into work, and thinking about how I can improve and how I can make more money and be more valuable to the men that are in the clubs, and then comparing that to what I actually find pleasurable and fulfilling and real and authentic to me, and seeing how those things are so different, and then trying to find like a commonality that can, so that I don't have to completely and totally dissociate and everything.
Yes.
it's given me like so much to think about and reflect on, which has made me a lot more compassionate and a lot more aware of other people's experiences. And it's just made me a lot less judgmental in general. And so that's why I feel like sex work is inherently spiritual. And
I agree. I learned how to be so much more empathetic because of sex work. And I find it interesting in some professions. I'm currently transitioning into going into tech, and in the role that I'm going into, there's a lot of talk of empathy. You have to understand your customer. You have to have empathy for their problems.
Yeah.
And when I'm sitting in these like tech meetup calls, I'm looking at everyone. I'm like, if only you knew, if only you understood how much empathy we have to have for the guy that slapped us on the ass when we walked by, because it took everything inside me to not say something mean or just turn around and punch him. Granted, I would lose my job, so that helps a lot. But to try to understand he is like that because he's been taught that in order for him to survive as a man, he has to demean women that way or demean other people that way that he perceives as less than. It takes a lot of empathy to be that way. And I honestly don't think that I would have come out that way. And I think a lot of other sex workers would not come out that way if it wasn't because of the work.
Yeah. I think it's taught me to hold men accountable. I think before I got really heavily involved and like invested, like I was doing stripping for a few years before I decided that like this is what I'm gonna do. I had like other things in mind, and then I switched lanes, and I was like, no, I think stripping is actually more conducive to who I am and my lifestyle. I think I may have taken a lot longer to not be such a pick me and not be so forgiving. I feel like I have maybe, it's not that I have less empathy, it's that I have less patience for um, the bullshit and the misogyny and all that. Like I've learned to kind of shut off my like maybe less than healthy understanding for like men's behavior. I'm just I don't mean it's taken me a long time. But I've had a lot less patience and a lot less I hold a lot less space for, and I mean that doesn't mean that I'm turning around and I'm like freaking out at people who are like being disrespectful. I'm definitely the type of person to just say something, you're like, it's really not cute to slap somebody on the ass. Would you like it if a stranger hit you without asking? And that's my favorite thing to say to guys who are like trying to slap asses. I'm like, you are literally hitting me and you don't even know my name. Right. It's so rude. Like, are you serious? I'm usually just like, oh my God, that's not free. And it's certainly not okay to do without asking, but I don't like turn around and like slap him in the face. I mean, a guy tweaked my nipple once and I got cheered though. I was lucky to work at a club where everyone was like, hell yeah.
Man, I wish my club would fire me in a second.
I've worked at some clubs where they're not into that, and I've worked at some clubs where they're 100% behind you. I've worked at a lot of clubs over the years. I travel and, but I think it's taught me like how to be understanding and empathetic while holding people accountable at the same time, and also not letting anyone cross my boundary because of my understanding and my empathy. It's just like, no, that's a line, and that's a good line, and you crossed it, so now I don't have to feel bad. Like, I understand why you've been taught this and how you've come to the idea that it's okay to treat people this way, but that's not my problem. That's your problem, and you're gonna at least in this moment, you're going to take that and you're going to be responsible for it in
I
my
love that.
space and in my energy.
Yeah, I love that this journey has gotten you to such a place where, like you were saying, you have that sense of value and self-worth because
Yeah.
it's almost like the boobs are a costume that you put on
Oh,
and you
they're
try things
100% a
out.
costume.
Yeah, they're
The
a
hair
costume.
too. I like very
Oh, yeah,
long hair is also
right?
such a costume.
It's all a costume, you know.
Yeah.
And in life, before we wrap up, like I just think this is like this. It's such a great spiritual conversation because in life, um, we can apply the same thinking. Everything is a
Yeah,
costume, and at any moment
absolutely.
you can decide I'm going to change this. You know, I might decide 10 years from now, take them off. You know, I don't want any of this anymore.
You can pick
And
up that armor if you want to
yeah,
and put it on, or you
yeah,
can choose to have a moment where you put it down and be vulnerable and you get to
yes.
decipher what that is.
Yes, exactly. You have so much emotional maturity, and
Thank you.
man, I wish that I would have. It took me a long time. It took me a really long time. I'm still working on it, but I wish I would have had that when I was your age. So I think you should congratulate yourself for getting what you got out of this journey because I'm willing to wager that you probably got a lot more out of it than
Oh,
what you thought you were getting when you gave that doctor $12,000. Like you got something far more hard to explain and less tangible, but so much more valuable than just all the money that you made
oh yeah.
from this experience. Is there
Definitely
anything that?
gratitude to
Oh yeah.
myself
Oh
for
no, go
figuring
ahead.
that
Yeah.
out.
Yeah. Is there anything that we didn't talk about today that you want to leave the conversation with before we close?
Mm, I mean, just take some time other than the money. What is a reason that you would choose to alter your meat suit? What it's your body, and what is that gonna look like and feel like for you throughout your entire life? And pay attention to what your subconscious, your instinct, your gut is really telling you.
Yes.
I would just say,
Yes.
take a minute and think about it first because there are so many ramifications that you don't know about. And I'm a proponent for any kind of elective surgery that you want to have for any reason. But as long as you just really think about your come approach it from an authentic place
Mm-hmm. Well
and be
said.
honest with yourself.
Mm-hmm. 100%. Um, this has been such an enlightening and surprisingly spiritual conversation. It's been so great getting to hear your experience today. Is anyone that wants to find you online, where can they find you?
So on Instagram, it's a new Instagram. My last one got deleted for slutty reasons. It's Karma dot chase 444.
444. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for the platform. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to talk to me.
Okay. So they were so composed. And to have
I
an
know.
experience like that, where you've made a huge decision financially and also physically, and then have to then realize I'm a different person and hold on to that resolve.
Right.
I don't know how to have that kind of strength. Like, wow.
Yeah, I don't know where all that strength and like that came from. I mean, it was really impressive. I was really impressed that there was no ums and ahs, like
Mm-hmm.
they just spoke like so thoughtfully,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and the 45 minutes went by so fast.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I could have just sat and listened to them talk for longer, for sure.
Yeah.
And because it gave me a lot to think about as someone who I identify as by gender, and I've got these like huge double D's natural on my body, and like there
I
have
was
been
thinking of
times
you.
Right. And there have been times where I've considered a reduction just because these Johns are fucking huge. Like, no, I don't need double D tits. Like, it's ridiculous. Right. But it's just what I was given by my DNA. Thanks,
Have you
Grandma.
thought about like doing the reduction surgery?
I won't do it. I won't do it because I've had enough surgeries to my body with my amputation. And I'm so used to them at this point. And even though I identify as bigender, I technically still identify as a woman.
Sure.
And also they made me so much money. For so long.
Like keepsake that is attached to your body.
Yeah, I'm really grateful for them. And there's no way that like when I was working, I would have had a reduction. And now I'm like almost, I'm 44 and it's like, I'm just so accustomed to them at this point. I think it would feel weird without them. But there are times where I'm like, you were talking about tools, and I view my feminine body as a tool. And when I would dress up for work and put the extensions in and put the makeup on and all that, I felt like I was in drag. I felt like I was in a costume. That's why I didn't celebrate Halloween. People are like, oh, Halloween. I'm like, bro, I dress up in costumes every day of my life. Like, I don't need to be.
It's true, though. If you only knew, it takes me a whole hour to do all of this.
At least, And so it was just really interesting. It was just the body dysphoria that we were that they were talking about. I wasn't talking about. Is so interesting. And I remember when seeing Karma's message thinking this is not anything I even would have considered if I were to get any kind of elective surgery. I don't think I would have even considered my gender because I'm considering the fucking patriarchy.
Yeah.
Because I'm conditioned to do that still, even though I am aware and even though I see all of this shit, I'm still conditioned by the patriarchy to think of that before how I feel in my own body. Wild. That's some bullshit.
To see like what the industry starts to evolve into now that people are getting information on how to break their mind of that at a younger age. Like, because we're the same age, so we grew up with Teen Magazine. All this shit.
Oh my God. We've been so conditioned.
I know.
And then you're right. Like, I listen to these younger people, like you said to Karma, you're like, I wish I knew this when I was younger. I do that all the time because they just have access to the internet and social media and like this exchange of information at a younger age where their brains are more elastic than us. And we were just introduced so late and so overwhelmingly. It wasn't just it like for them, for the younger generation, they wake up into this technology. For us, it was like, I don't know how to explain it. I feel like it was harder because it like wasn't there and then it was. And that it was overwhelming. It still is overwhelming.
Oh yeah. I spent 3 hours yesterday making one Instagram reel and I couldn't look at a screen after that. I was like so angry.
Yeah, it's hard to have, like, I spent my childhood and my young adulthood like being outside and playing. And now I'm like in front of a computer, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, we're totally off topic, but I am very impressed with the younger generation and they were wonderful. And I'm stoked for this series. I think this is great. Yeah.
I'm hoping for the next generation of strippers, sex workers to have a climate that allows them to be their identity, I feel like I'm making a big protest by not having my nails done, but wouldn't it be great if there were more clubs that had more non-binary performers and it would just be
yes, that would be fucking rad.
My club actually has 2 non-binary performers. One I don't see very often, but
dude, I want some co-ed shit. That's what I want. Oh yeah.
Someday. It used to be like that. There used to be clubs that were co-ed.
Co-ed queer. That's what I want.
Yeah. More queer.
Yes. Co-ed queer. Anyway, this is great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. It was fun.
Yeah.
Looking forward to more.
Yeah.
That's it for today. Thank you so much for listening. And please remember to like, subscribe, and rate our podcast. See you soon.
Bye.
YAS Podcast is produced by YAS Work, which is a nonprofit dedicated to educating and entertaining audiences about sex work through media. Learn more about how you can get involved in the podcast and our organization by visiting yaswork.org. That's YASWORK.org.